Action!
It's very hard to know why The Woman in Black is so popular. Ghost stories are in every culture, every fable, every country has its ghosts and its ghost stories. I think it locks into that, probably.
Well, I read The Woman in Black ages ago, and it's a real sort of gothic, scary, very evocative book.
In some violent or dreadful circumstance, a child has died.
I think people are fascinated by the afterlife and the sense of what may lie beyond. Whether people believe or not, I think ghosts are a very interesting arena to explore, and I think people also love a good scare. And I thought there was a potential to make an incredibly visual and rich period film that was incredibly entertaining, but also had a heart and had some horror at the same time.
Arthur's somebody who has been just pushed into complete inaction by the death in his life, whereas the Woman in Black's bereavement has caused her to become murderous and vengeful from beyond the grave, and she now spends her time avenging herself on the rest of the village by taking away their children as well.
Well, we modernised it in so many ways. I mean, I worked with Jane to take the dialogue and put it in a much more modern idiom.
Do you have a telephone? Not even Mr. Daly has a telephone, sir.
James said to me very early on, I don't want this to feel like a period piece at all. So aside from the costumes and the settings, you know, none of us are attempting accents.
Samuel Daly.
What I think really makes this film great is the cast that was put together by James.
Arthur Kipps.
Well, I have to say, during the work that I've done really in my life, I hadn't really been involved in a genre that I suppose goes down as gothic horror.
I believe even the most rational mind can play tricks in the dark.
In a way, it's a paternal relation, but you have to understand that the man is in denial as well. He hasn't fully faced up to his own grief and history.
It's not natural to lose someone so young. But if we open the door to superstition, where does that lead?
Ciarán, you know, to look at is a very solid kind of built guy, and because you see somebody like that having such strength and sort of stoicism through something so awful happening to them, it sort of makes it all the more heartbreaking.
You're married, Mr. Kipps? No, don't go. That's rude.
In the book, Mrs. Daly, she's described as sort of, I don't know, fluffy and short. Clearly, I was miscast. And she has a very sad relationship with her husband, and that makes her feel very isolated. So you get the impression that there's a huge love between her and her husband, but somehow there's something in the way. Well, I've worked with Ciarán on a number of occasions, and occasionally we've had to be separated because we've laughed too much, and because we just seem to set each other off, and we have a ball. I think that the darker, the bleaker, the more hysterical, the more emotional the job, the more you have to laugh and have fun. One has to balance the other.
I think we are really in with the shot, if we wanted to possibly put them up in the Guinness World Records as the tallest combined height of an on-screen couple. Because Ciarán's, I think, about 6'1" or 6'2", and I think Janet's 6 foot or 6'1". That's 12 foot between two people, so, like, I had to go to an osteopath to fix my neck after, 3 days of scenes with him.
Liz White is fantastic. I saw her in the National Theatre in London, and she completely owned the stage. I keep saying to her, I know, Liz, this is the oddest job you've probably ever done, where it's very precise moments that we're trying to create, but to bring the emotion to it, but this character in the veil.
I think getting only a glimpse early and playing with your own imagination, I feel, is always a really strong thing. Those are the ghosts that really haunt you afterwards. It's the ones that live partly in your own mind.
When I first read the script, it was very descriptive of the woman in black. So immediately I had an image in my head of how to tackle this. My thinking was kind of brides of grief. The most important thing for all of us was just getting the veiling right. We wanted to see her face, but we didn't want to see her face. The face kind of sits here, and so the veil would just drop down from the peak straight down. And so by its pure nature, it kind of hides her face.
I think absolutely we're all hoping we can create a really iconic horror image and horror character that can really stay with people and really get under people's skin.
Action!
I think the locations are very much characters in their own right. I mean, we scoured all over the country to try and find the right house, and we found this beautiful house in Peterborough, which we degraded and brought down.
I don't think the couple that owned it really fully knew what we were going to do to their lawn, because when we got there, apparently it was the most pristine sort of, you know, magazine cover, beautiful, and then we got in there and put half-decayed statues, huge amounts of weeds and gates, and, you know, just made it look very, very frightening.
But it had a real wonderful Gothic sense without being too obviously Gothic or too caricature Gothic. It just had this big stone edifice that looked really imposing with these mullioned windows. And Cave Quinn, our wonderful production designer, is creating a wonderful interior for this house.
That to me is the exciting part of my job, is getting my teeth into a script and then trying to work out with the director where you need the most emphasis, where you need the most space, where you need the most containment.
With very rich, degraded colours, and using the colours of lilacs and purples and the colours of decay and death. And Tim and I were going to light it in such a way that it really has this rich, contrasty, saturated feel. When you see the causeway and the big, wide, open space of the marshland, it's very desolate and bleak. This is a place where the tide will come up above your head in 10 minutes, and if you go 10 paces out, you'll lose your footing and you'll be sucked under. And we sort of used that in the film because it felt so real, and that's very much the sense that that place brings. I don't want to make exploitative scares. I want to make scares that really linger with people, real chills. Rather than the slasher genre, here I'm trying to make something much more ghostly, much more withheld, much more what's just about to jump out of the black.
That was the fun challenge, was, you know, just really trying to mine every scary moment and engineer it so it was as scary as it possibly could be.
The thing about when you're really doing something that's creepy is that in order to make it creepy, it's extremely technical. So it's not really creepy on the set.
James realises that the only way that scares actually count when they come in a film like this is if you care about the character, you will be much more scared and you'll be much more involved in the film.
I would love to give people an experience in the cinema that gives them the sense of horror, the sense of heart, a real journey, a real ride.
I found the boy! It's unsettling and frightening, but also it's about loss and family and how different people deal with death.
His main job is to be scary, and I think, you know, thanks to James and to Daniel and to everyone else that worked on the film, that's there in spades.
It's a film to make you afraid of the dark, definitely. My character, Arthur, he's somebody that, after the death of his wife, becomes totally, you know, disconnected from the world around him.
Do you like it, Daddy?
Very much.
One of the things that was very attractive about this, and in terms of something I've never done before, I'm playing a father in this. I sort of have cheated slightly on that score because I got my godson to audition for the part of Joseph, my son.
That's you.
Why do I look so sad? And he was great, and he was adorable as well. Like, he's the sweetest little boy.
OK, I've got to go. Don't want to be late.
And it's great because you really can't fake that relationship and that chemistry and the love that there is between us, because he's known me all his life and I've obviously known him since he was a baby, and it's just, it's very, very hard to recreate that with a very young actor.
Daddy! Coming!
I thought there was a great character to take Arthur Kipps, this young guy who's lost his wife, who's got this young son, taking him on this journey where he goes to this very unnerving place and on a psychological journey. Dan is an absolute delight to work with. He's just a brilliant actor to direct. He is so focused. It's just an absolute joy doing a slow push in on Dan and letting the camera drift closer and closer and closer into his eyes, and absolutely the camera reading absolutely everything that he's feeling. It's a delight.
So, did I get that right? It's when I see her that I...
Correct. His dedication to research and to exploring the character was really extraordinary. I mean, you know, really there are very few actors who put in as much hard work as I saw Daniel do.
And now!
He's a really, really good actor, and he's a very generous person, and he's a very real actor.
This is a great thing for him because he's got to hold this thing on his own. He's the protagonist. You see it through him. He's got to go through the whole emotional journey of it, and yet he's grown up more. He's 21, and he's now becoming fully adult and is well capable of taking on that responsibility.
And the other day I gave him 4 notes on one scene, and he came back and he did the take and he hit all 4 notes, and I had to go up to him and say, geez, Dan, that was incredible.
Very nice. Thank you, Dan. That was lovely. That's the one.
Part of what I talked to James about when we first met was the fact that one of the things that keeps him there is the fact that he's lost his wife, and suddenly he's seeing the ghost of a dead woman. He almost seeks her out at times, you know. He doesn't want to run away because in seeing the woman in black, there is some confirmation of the afterlife which he hopes that his wife is in. I'm somebody who could never really watch horror movies because I was always too scared. And this film absolutely is not going to be one for the faint-hearted.
Joseph!
Part of the journey of this film is the fact that in going away from his son for a few days, he realises how much he misses him. I think it makes Arthur see that he sort of has to, for lack of a more tactful expression, man up and just get on with being a dad.
You're sure you don't want to rest up before you go?
Yes, I just want to get him home.
I understand.
You know, that's the whole point of films like this, is that they reel you in. It's about building up a character and a feel to the film that ultimately will end up scaring you a lot more if you're willing to go with it.